This is the podcast that we ask our guests from in front and behind the camera, how did they get their foot in the door? What was the key to unlocking their success? What's their story?
Our guest today comes from a long line of filmmakers, growing up on sets such as The Man Who Would Be King with his father John Huston. He found his own success with breakthrough roles in Martin Scorsese's The Aviator and stole all the scenes in The Proposition. He's taken on Wolverine and Wonder Woman. Soon he'll be taking on Bill Skarsgård's The Crow and Liam Neeson's The Naked Gun remakes. We chat about all of this and his collaborations with Kevin Costner on Yellowstone and Horizon, staying sharp while on set of Succession, and how he likes to stay inspired in between work. Our guest today is actor Danny Huston.
Hello, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
And I just want to say straight off that your career and all the jobs and the shows and the movies that you've done, I've been like following along since I was a kid. Not to age you, but I've been a fan for many years. So this is a big deal for me. So I really appreciate it.
Cheers. Thank you.
So to start off, we usually talk about how, someone's career started, where that love and passion of performing came from. Obviously, you come from a family of actors, of filmmakers, and was that huge influence for you starting out?
Well, yes, I was. Prior to this interview, I was giving that some thought, and my family is directly influenced me in so many ways as far as my career in film is concerned, because I come from that in a way. So my early memories were, my first set visits were like the Bible that my father made in Italy, and he also played Noah, and later when I saw a cut of the film that had my mother dying of thirst in the desert, playing Hagar with a child that was not me, which confused me a great deal. He did the voiceover for God. So, and that's the first cut of the film that I saw. That was many years later. So immediately my life and my understanding of film is it was very blurry so far as what's real and what's not, and everyone's father, I guess, is a god in a sense, but here he was playing it for real. And then the films that I saw, exactly, and the films that I was playing Noah with a long period, and then the films that I saw in Ireland, growing up in Galway where he had a home, were films like The Treasure of the Sierra Madre that my grandfather was in. I never met my grandfather, but that was a way for me to see him. And I always thought of him as an oil prospector, and then I saw him in other films, and just the sort of whole storytelling aspect of my family, and also the early films that I saw growing up in Italy, the neorealism, the Rossellini films, De Sica, etc. On the way that I think sometimes I experiment with film and using shorthands, post-war, and the ability to make films without having to go through the studio system. And I saw my father many times struggle through the studio system, but he was a great poker player, and of course made wonderful, great films. But that was my sort of my beginning was, and then I went to film school. I went to the London International Film School, and the first job I got was directing a title sequence for my father with a great cameraman called Gabriel Figueroa, who lit it for me. That was me in my early 20s. I used to make him drinks when he used to look at the rushes, the dailies. And it would be it would depend on what country we were in. It would be a different drink. But so I observed him working, and that was as you can imagine, a wonderful, adventurous thing. When he made Man Would Be King, I was a teenager. I was in the Atlas Mountains, Morocco.
Wow, amazing.
Kipling story with Connery and Michael Caine and Christopher Plummer. Yeah,
That's
so
insane.
that's a long answer to your question.
But no, no, that I mean that is that's a beautiful way to come about something, and also such a nice thing that you can go back and you say you didn't meet your grandfather, but you still get to see him. That's quite a powerful thing. And not only that, I mean your family's all on film, so you can kind of go back and see them at different ages, and that's quite fascinating. Wow, what an amazing start, and to see people, on the film set there, you mentioned Sean Connery and Michael Caine, and these kind of juggernauts of the industry. Did that feel normal to you at the time, or was that still like, wow?
It was pretty wow. Yeah. And also watching my father work was always tremendous. He the sort of the cliche of the film director is almost fulfilled by him. The
Mm.
cigar smoking, the safari jacket, and the director chair, and he was the dude, and yes, I knew that magic was happening with Kane and Connery when they were playing those two characters in The Man Who Would Be King. But there were also normal moments. There were moments in Ireland where I don't know, the likes of Robert Mitchum or something like that would turn up for dinner, and it didn't strike me as being something that was unusual in a way. So you
Yeah,
got
of
to come with,
course.
yeah.
And you've directed quite a few films, in fact, and various bits and bobs. So was acting always the kind of aim, or you seem to you've tried your hand at a bit of everything, writing, directing, producing as well. So is there along the way, do you like to just sort of try a bit of everything, or is acting the main thing?
Well, I went to film schools, as I mentioned, and there we would dabble in different parts of the filmmaking process. We'd also act in each other's films,
Mm.
um, and then I did a couple of roles as a kid. But my ambition really was I went to art school and painted a little, but my ambition, as far as film was concerned, was writing and directing. Um, and I went through a rather tough period after my father died. I kind of lost my partner in crime, including my father, and my films weren't getting made, or I thought they were. I was kind of in a seasonless sort of state in Los Angeles, and a friend of mine called Bernard Rose, he was kind of going through a hard time also, career wise, and we picked up this early digital camera, Sony camera, and made an adaptation of The Death of Ivan Illich by Tolstoy, called Ivan's Ecstasy. And we didn't know what was going to come of this film. We just did it out of desperation. We had nothing else that we could do, and we didn't have to ask anybody permission to make this film, because we discovered this camera. It was like discovering the wheel or something. Like, wow, we don't need anybody to do. We don't need a crew. We don't need to ask anybody for money to do this. We can just do it in our backyard, and that's what we did. And I had a starring role in that. But he was only scraping the bottom of the barrel. It was because there was nobody else around. So we kind of made it that way, and it was a success. And I was reviewed very favorably and kindly, and other directors who saw the film, like, it became a bit of a sort of cult film. Other directors who saw the film liked it, decided that they wanted to use me as an actor. So I took that as my lead into acting, and took it very seriously from that point on.
Looking back at that point, you say it was obviously a hard time, and for various reasons, not only for your career but also your father. When you were at that low point, and obviously struggling to get work, all the other things that were going on, do you now look back and it must be amazing to think how much things have changed? The fact that your career is, I mean, it's just you're in every, I feel like anyone I told that you were coming on this podcast, they were like, that guy is in everything. Um, your career's really obviously flourished since then. What does that kind of, I guess a career is it's pieces of a puzzle put together, but can you look back at it as a whole and think, wow, that's incredible that it went from this to this?
Yes, absolutely is incredible. And I live with the with the joy of that, and also the fear of that. You never know. It's from one job to the next, really.
Mm,
And but yeah, I mean, it is. I'm really proud of certain people that I work with. My 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 credo is to work with people that I respect and people that I admire. Um, I I came into acting through directing, and writing, so I always saw it also as a way to maybe steal something that they have, or learn from their work. I like to be part of a sort of a movement in cinema, or to be. So sometimes I see, like I loved working with Iñárritu and Arriaga and Cuarón, and feel that that's a sort of movement in
mm,
cinema.
mm,
Jonathan Glazer as well. I'm very proud to work with Nick Cave. So when I look, of course, Scorsese, but when I look back at my career, and I see those names and those people and where they are now, and who we have all become, but that sort of feeling that you're a part of something that happened
mm,
in cinema, and is also happening in
mm.
cinema. I look forward as well. But yeah, I am very, very lucky to have worked with some of the greats. You
Mm.
know.
Well, yeah, looking back at the list, and you mentioned a few there, but it is just insane. The directors and the actors and all the people that you've worked with. Can you, I mean, it's a difficult thing to ask, but I'm an actor myself, so I always find it really intriguing because I've been doing it a while, but I'm still trying to get that big break. Was there a moment, you say obviously the film that you did with your friend where it was a kind of, in your back garden? Was that the moment that you kind of realized that, oh, I'm in the right place here. This is the kind of the game changer when it came out and it kind of changed your career. Was there another moment, or was that the moment?
I think definitely that was the game changer for me. That was where my career changed. And I've continued to collaborate with Bernard Rose. We've done 3 or 4 adaptations of Tolstoy. Also during COVID, we did another film called Traveling Light. So that collaboration was something that I felt was the beginning of something. As far as being on a set, my first moment was, I guess, on the Scorsese set of Aviator. That was that was probably the sort of big moment. Like, wow, um, um, sort of pinch yourself kind of moment. And also, in a way, it's characters like Ava Gardner were in the film, people that I knew in real life as well. So you start to see sort of patterns changing. But the moment, yeah, that moment with Brendan Rose was really the what changed my career.
Mm-mm. You mentioned the
You know, I
Aviator
was,
there. That movie was something. It was around the time where I was kind of figuring out what I wanted to do, and actually, the Aviator, not only your performance but Leonardo DiCaprio's performance, the performances in that really influenced me. And I remember watching that and just thinking, that's amazing. Like something like that feels like it will. It's almost immortal. It will last forever. It will be something that people will watch in like 50 years time from now. And I think that's for me the magic of movies that. you know, obviously your family being in film and being able to go back and watch them, and it's kind of almost immortalizes people. Um, was there? I mean, that was my reason for wanting to go into acting. I think it's such a beautiful thing that you can watch a movie years from after you've made it, and it's like a capsule of time. Did you have a
Yes.
reason like that was like, right, this is why I want to do this? What drew you to, you know, being in front of the camera and not only, you know, directing and writing everything else, but that choice to be in front of the camera?
Yes, I know what you mean when you describe it that way, in the sense that you know, these images are caught on film and celluloid, or whatever the format is, and they're being immortalized, you know, and then later we watch them again. They're kind of projected by light or emitting some sort of light, and you conjure back these ghosts. These ghosts come back, and it's a looking glass into the past, and which is what has always intrigued me in stories, poetry, and music is the examination of the human condition, right? So that's and storytelling and you know, casting shadows on a wall, and weaving yarns, and telling tall tales that resonate and move from generation to generation, in a sense.
Mm.
The magic of that, and those are the things that interest me, and I think that's the way I approach my role in the film, my part of a film. How do you fit into that puzzle, and what is the story that you're telling?
Mm.
I have to have that. I have to have that clarity, and I certainly am very interested in the vision that the filmmaker has, and how I'm playing a part in that. What my part is in telling that story, be it my story or a bigger story.
Mm.
That, I think that's what it's you know, simply it's storytelling.
Mm. Yeah, it is. It is a crazy when you actually boil it down to story, you know, storytelling and what you actually do for a living. It is a mad job. It's a job that you think you can't be allowed to do that as a job. That's crazy. That sounds like too much fun. Um, and to be able to do what you love, uh, you know, every day. Do you have, I mean, now that you've been working for so many years and you've done so many great projects, I'm sure there isn't that much downtime, but you know, in the early days when you were, you know, struggling to get the next job, do you remember what you did in between, like things that kind of helped you get onto the, you know, next job without losing your mind? Because I find like I kind of go a little bit crazy sometimes when I'm waiting for the phone to ring.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and there isn't. It's. I don't think it ever becomes a comfortable place to be in when you're in between jobs. I don't think. I think there's always anxiety and um, uh, there isn't really a comfort. There isn't really a comfort zone, whether you're waiting to work or whilst you're working, for that matter. It's very. I don't think I haven't reached that point in my career. That's for sure. What do I try to do? Okay, so I think it's important just to stay creative, and you know, with what happened to Bernard Rose and I, you know, what it's like, we can make we can make a film, we can write a story, we can use our iPhones, as long as we're stimulating that muscle. I think one can get through it, you know, and also not be a victim or victimize oneself, or allow one to be victimized by others that have that ability to give us permission to work or not, you know.
Mm.
So it's whether it's writing a short story or a little play or or shooting something in your backyard with your kid or whatever tools you have, to keep producing and making something. I used to love. I used to love. One of the reasons I went to art school was because you can pick up a pencil and you can draw, and you don't need anybody's permission to do that. The trouble is that the art world is just as bad as the film business, as far as the gallery openings and the critics and the whole sort of game that you have to play. And it's really tough to play that game and not compromise your artistic quest and zeal and wanting to make things. And so it's just important, and through the hardest, toughest, most trying times is really when the most interesting sparks do happen. And that's sometimes what I have to remind myself of. It's when you have that sense of discomfort, even if it's anger, you then have some, we then have our work, thank God, to be able to channel those emotions through. Other professions have to hold those emotions in a lot of the time, So it's and if you've got something small to show, if you've got a little reel, if you've got a little short film, if you've got something that you can show somebody just to blow their minds or just to entertain, then you're doing your job. That's what our job is, to tell stories, to move people, scandalize people, and shake things up a bit.
Well, it's kind of this question is kind of along the same line, and it would be just that what you just did, what you said there was kind of advice to actors trying to get their foot in the door. But if you could go back, would there be any advice that you would give yourself in the early days of your career? Maybe words of comfort.
Yeah. Well, you see, that's really tricky, because I don't think I would want to go back and say to myself in times of great darkness, where I could glimpse of light ahead of me, that everything was going to be okay, because I then wouldn't have done the things I did out of desperation. Bernard and I would never have made that film. I mean, we really did it in the brinks of nothing. And it's with music as well. It's that, you got it's the garage band kind of thing, where you just, because nothing is going your way, you create something a specific way, which is original to you, and is about your passion, and it's about what you care about. It's about what you love, and nobody else can tell it like that when you're experiencing it that particular way. And all of those ingredients that are coming together in your life is what makes you that individual that can say it that way, with that voice, with that singularity of that voice and that vision. A comforting word would ruin all of it.
It would ruin. Oh, you need to suffer in terms of. Yeah, I get it. I
hate to say it. I hate to say that, because why should we have to suffer for our art? I hate to say that. But there is something gladiatorial about it. There is something where you're going in there you're being somewhat tested, and it's how you stand back up and fight that counts.
I think that is a comfort, though, for anyone listening to this. I feel like young actors not getting those jobs, they're sort of twiddling their thumbs, hoping that something's going to happen. I think that is great advice, though, that you are in control of your destiny in this way, that you can go out there and you can change it, just like you did. So I think that's sound advice that I will be taking as well. In terms of you've played loads of different roles, but there's seem to have a certain taste for villains. I feel like some of your most iconic roles are definitely the bad guys. Is there a reason for that? Is that something you particularly enjoy, or is it just how the cards fell?
Well, you know what they say. They say a story is only as good as its villain. Well, you know, they're great characters. There's a lot to chew
Mhm.
on, and they have a certain gusto a lot of the times. So they're fun cats to play. Um, a lot of the times, the hero is um, a harder character to play in a sense because there aren't that many levels that they can play. You know, they're being heroics, so they're good guys. You know, if you're going to look at this a bit black and white, but there has to be something really engaging about them as person and actor that we love and care about his mission. Somebody like Costner, I believe, has that. He can play those levels so beautifully and consistently, and just drives through a story. A villain has all the has all the different levels to play with. You know that, I just worked on a comedy. A remake of Naked Gun with
Yeah.
Liam Neeson, and that was a lot of fun because you can also take it on to yet another level. You know? So it's great to play all the different colors.
Now for a quick break. We'll be back to the episode shortly.
Check out the Patreon at patreon.com/life and film, where you'll get episodes early and uncut, amongst other treats. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy this episode, please leave us a positive rating. Add us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Life and Film Pod, and find our video episodes on YouTube by searching Elliot James Langridge Life and Film. Essentially, please like and subscribe everything. It makes a huge difference. Thank you.
This podcast is sponsored by Betterhelp. Do you work in the film industry? Are you freelance? Or perhaps you have a 9 to 5? No matter what you do, mental health affects us all. I struggled early on in my career with the uncertainty of if and when I would ever work again, struggling to pay my bills, or simply with anxiety. Don't know about you, but being an actor, it's very important for me to maintain structure in the downtimes, and I found not only exercise, but talking to someone, for me, was a game changer. And so Life in Film has partnered with Betterhelp to provide you with access to the largest online therapy service in the world. And it can all be done from the comfort of your own home, from a phone, tablet or laptop. No commute, cutting down travel costs, and most importantly, it's affordable. With over 1,000 therapists in the UK, Betterhelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a wide variety of expertise in mental health. If you need someone to talk to and you're thinking of giving therapy a go, Betterhelp is a great option. And being a listener of the podcast, you get 10% off. That's 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/life and film. That's betterhelp.com/life and film.
And back to the show. Mentioning Naked Gun, I cannot not now then ask you a bit more about that. I saw they were making this, and I was like, I'm so game, and it feels like something you're like, oh, you got to get it right. Like that is a dangerous project because the originals are so loved. Did you have any apprehension at all with, taking on what sounds like a villainous role in this movie?
Well, when I knew that Liam Neeson was in it, and all the Saturday Night Live guys, Akiva, and all that, it just made so much sense to me as far as what we need right now, as well as in these times of horror, and the writing was so sharp and funny, and also something that I've never really done before. So yeah, I done a part that might be available for me. I'm very, very excited about the outcome.
I cannot wait.
I've got these other films. I've got The Dead Don't Hurt. I'm really proud of that. Horizon, just a majestic work and a dream that he has made come through with his resilience and courage. And to dare to dream, even I guess a giant in the industry like Kevin Costner still is
Mm.
so struggling and fighting as much as anyone else, in a sense.
It blows my mind. I went to
Yeah,
see Horizon the other day, and you know, the fact that it is such an American film, but it's on. It was, well, when it came out, it was in all the cinemas here, and I went to see it, and it was just like, it was like a throwback to like Dances with Wolves, that
yeah,
epic sort of
yeah,
Western sweeping.
yeah.
And I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing the. I hear there might be four parts, but I'm looking forward to the one they've obviously already done, the second part.
Yes,
Um,
what he's doing is incredible. It's a hybrid. It's something like this has never really been done before, including how it's being released.
mm,
So it takes someone of his determination to be able to pull through and make this majestic work. You know,
mm.
and Vigos is a smaller, more tighter Western, but also Western, told out of chronology with Vicky Krieps. And I've got The Crow coming out, which is a horror inky tale, and yeah, quite excited about that.
I'm very excited to see that one as well. That feels like just seeing the trailer for it, it seems so different from the original that it just looks really exciting. And I mean the visual effects and the fight sequences look amazing. These are all very different projects as well. It's amazing that all within a couple of years you've got all these different projects coming out. Um, it looks like it must be a lot of fun to be you right now.
It is, but I tell you, there are these wobbly moments in between, and you never know. And being an actor, you finish and you're unemployed. You're immediately
Mm,
unemployed. However many films I've done, all of those moments in between were moments that I was unemployed. So yes, looking back, I've had this wonderful career, but it's always filled with apprehension as to what's going to be the next one.
mm. Was there a time that you can look back on? Because I think because you have so many projects coming out, and whenever you see someone's IMDb list, it just looks like it's relentless, and they've done all these things. Did you ever have a large period of being out of work in the early days? Obviously you talked about the moment where you had your game-changing moment, but once the ball started rolling and you thought, oh, well, this is it, were there any kind of holes where you thought, oh no, maybe momentum is lost? We love to hear the traumatic stories on this podcast because all these actors are listening and they're like, please tell me it was as hard for you as it is for me right now. You see what I mean?
Well, it was, and if you look at my career, you can see I started acting very late. So yeah, the beginning part of my career was very tough. Even if I knew the right people, I knew that, but finally, it's the film business, the film industry, and it's like it doesn't matter.
Mm,
The stars somehow have to align. But lately, during COVID and the actor strike, it was very, very difficult. And with COVID, as I said earlier, with Bernard Rose, we did this film called Traveling Light in a friend's house. I mean, he was operating. We didn't have a sound man. We just it was just him and his camera and a few friends of mine who were all being tested. And we did it in a company of 6 or 7 people in total. Then I did something else which was virtual, another film that was virtual for nothing. I just tried to stay creative. And then the actor strike, and at that point, there was a film that I was being cast in, but they didn't get the letter that they were supposed to get from the guild, and so I wasn't able to be in that. And so, yeah, I mean, taking a leaf from my own advice, I guess what I tried to do is keep working, even if it was just with my immediate friends, whatever it was, however I could do it, just to keep it going. And with Traveling Light, we actually did manage to get a really small release. It was like in one theater in LA and another one in New York or something. But we got a theatrical release. That's pretty
yeah,
damn good. Just
of course.
us sitting around. And it was a film. That was made over 2 to 3 weeks, the most, set of one night, and there were the LA riots going on, and we had that as our ending of the film, the LA riots. I mean, talk about production value, right?
Yeah. Then people are watching that thinking, wow, they've got a lot of extras in this.
Yeah, yeah. So so there was all, so we managed to make also a small little document of that particular moment in time. Yeah, yeah, there are always hard times lurking. That's what's so hard about this business. You never know, from one film to the next. You never know.
Mm.
And each film is a wonderful little mini lifetime. I'm really bad with dates, but I can remember all the films and the experiences and the life experiences I was having at that particular moment in time. But there are always gaps in between that are, dark chasms.
Dark chasms.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds awful. To all you actors
Well,
out there, you're not the only ones. You're not the only ones.
Well, they are. It really sort of stares back at you. Oh my God, what is the meaning? It's very difficult.
One thing I always think about is, I love movies, and I can see that you obviously love movies. The only downside of loving movies and being out of work is watching movies and seeing all the people that have been cast and you haven't. So it's like a pastime where,
that's horrible.
you're seeing some of your friends, or you're seeing people and you're like, oh, so it's kind of a double-edged sword in a way.
That's horrible. That's horrible. I guess that's another good reason to go back to a great novel, poetry, or something that is the genesis of what those films are. And the whole mythology of story, and you can really lose yourself in that. I'm trying to read Joyce's The Dubliners again. I've got it as my ambition to try to read it again. That's an assignment in itself. That's and also going into somebody like Joyce's mind. The literary knowledge that you gain from something like that is so useful in one's approach to film.
Well, I'm dyslexic, so that sounds like an absolute nightmare. No, I'll give it a go for sure.
But I guess there's some really good audio versions of these books, and that's sort of like a trick that Bernard Rose and I used, as far as like we thought, well, who's one of the best writers? Tolstoy. Okay, well, let's look at some of Tolstoy's short stories. This one would convert nicely into a story about Hollywood, and suddenly there was this sort of shorthand that we had where we knew exactly what we were making, because we were, adapting something with a profundity that we knew was well thought out, and so we had, and so we made something which was very low budget, but based on a pretty, developed written idea by one of the masters of literature. So it's kind of useful sometimes to go back to the origin of storytelling and to find that voice.
But it feels like you're in safe hands, I guess.
Exactly. And find that voice and turn it into something else. Be it, not unlike music, with jazz or punk or anything that's playing. The origins are as important as the rebellion of it all. And that's why neorealism and the nouvelle vague and all of that thing is really interesting as well, because it's playing with past classic ideas and converting them into the world that we are living and experiencing today.
Well, there's obviously a reason why it survived so long. They're age-old stories that they still work, they're still relevant, and they can be. There's so many adaptations of various, well, even when it comes to Shakespeare and things like that, and you can be watching a movie and not even realize that it's kind of an adaptation of, say, Macbeth, or and you won't even notice it necessarily.
Exactly.
Yeah, no,
Exactly.
it's you got to learn from the best, learn from the best.
Yeah.
Just to, I mean, I will let you go soon. I appreciate I've actually taken up loads more time than I said, and I'm looking at the clock thinking, oh my God.
No, it's been a joy speaking to you.
Oh, thank you. No, it's been a real joy, and I just, yeah, I wanted to. There's a few things I wanted to touch on because I'm a huge fan of, firstly, Yellowstone and Succession, and I mean these shows. I mean, we've talked about a lot of your movies there, but we haven't talked about the TV you've been in. And with something like Yellowstone, obviously coming on board a show like that, it was already running when you came into it, and working obviously with Kevin Costner, a show like that, is that a daunting thing to go onto a show that's such a huge machine when it's already been going for a year or
Well,
so?
no, actually, it was very much at the beginnings that I got involved, and it was Paramount was starting this channel called Paramount Plus, and it was
Mm,
one of the very first show on Paramount Plus, and Taylor Sheridan had set it up, and Kevin Costner was in it, and when I read what Taylor Sheridan was doing with the script, this sort of modern day Western,
mm,
talking about the
mm.
old-fashioned one in regards to the Horizon, Kevin Costner's Horizon. This was, the Native Americans are casino owners,
Mm, yeah.
and the old ranchers are suffering from people like me trying to develop their land, and for urban cowboys who want to experience the sort of Montana world, and so the ingredients were so interesting, politically, as far as portrait of America, yeah. So I was really delighted to play the sort of the city guy, the guy who's trying to expand it and turn this land into profit. Um,
Such a great
and,
show.
and working with Kevin Costner, of course, always a joy. So it was great to work with him again. As far as Succession is concerned, I mean, I've never read such, despicable characters. And that's a real Shakespearean drama,
Yeah.
right there, converted into our modern corporate world of greed and deceit. But I stepped into that when it was well formed, and that was daunting.
Mm, mm.
Um, and because it was a well-oiled machine, and those guys were just so quick-witted and sharp-tongued.
The dialogue is
Uh,
incredible in that show.
yeah, yeah. So you really have to kind of hit the ground running. So that gave me a few sleepless nights for sure.
Can I check? I think I've misremembered actually, because I remember thinking Yellowstone, you were in the second season. Were you in the first season?
In the first and the second, yes,
Ah, the first and the second. Okay, in my mind,
yeah.
because I watched it when it came out, which is obviously a few years ago now, and I'm thinking you came into it in the same. So I apologize. You were
No, it's
actually
quite all right.
you were the
Yeah,
the kind of villainous character in the and you had such a grisly end. Well, everyone in that show does at some point. Their end is coming. Spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't seen it. But yeah, two fantastic shows, and so many projects that I'm hugely envious of. And I hope to sort of emulate in some way a career like yours. It truly is a collection of fantastic projects. And in terms of TV and film, you had your theatre debut in the West End at the Royal Court. The Kid Stays in the Picture. Now
yes,
that's obviously a very different discipline, and probably a completely different type of terror. You talked about going on to Succession when it was already rolled, the ball was rolling, but to go on stage in the West End, how was that experience for you? And doing it relatively, later in your career, you've been around many years, and to do it in, was it 2016, 17 that you did that.
Maybe, yeah, but that was a roller coaster, and working with Simon Burney as avant-garde and crazy in the most wonderful ways was made it all the more hair-raising. and the troop, the team that he works with are people that he's worked with before, and it was a story about Robert Evans. The kid stays in the picture. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was, and he would change things around at the last minute. He changed things around the night before press night, and
oh wow.
And the problem with Simon McBurney is that every idea he has is better than his last. It's just he's so brilliant that you cannot say no. Because it's great. So you have to attempt and try and make what his acrobatic approach to things and do it with full commitment. I mean, it was blood, sweat, and tears. We crashed into each other. But it's an incredibly invigorating type of theater, and something that I've never experienced before, and would only like to experience it again because I've had enough time to recover.
I'm sure after doing a job like that, you're like, actually, a bit of time off is quite welcome.
Yeah, no, it really took a lot out of me, and as I say, because it kept changing, just kept changing. You could never rely that something was going to be the same, and the whole show was like this crazy Rubik's cube of maneuvers that made it all the more difficult to find one's comfort zone.
Oh, I wish that I'd been able to see it. Obviously, time has gone by, and it's obviously no longer. That's the one thing about theatre. I suppose now they're doing live shows of certain things, say at the National in London, and they do record them now. But there's something quite exciting about something that once it's done, that's it. It's finished. It's gone. Obviously, the total opposite of film, but it sounds like a great experience.
Yes. Yeah, the total opposite, and I guess the magic of theater is that it does keep changing. Where with film, in a sense, once it's etched and it's there, it's forever there.
For better or
I mean, our perception of it changes.
Yes,
but the performance itself stays the same.
Danny, thank you so much. I'll let you go now, and just to say again, thank you so much for taking the time, and enjoy your time in London. You've got the 1 or 2, maybe 3 hot days of the year here, so enjoy.
I know. Well, maybe it'll be an Indian summer, but it's a beautiful day today.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
All right. Well, take care, and thank you again.
You too. You're very welcome. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you to our guest Danny, and thank you to his team at Wolf Callister PR. As always, thank you to our sponsor, BetterHelp.